The moment Yemen signaled a possible move around the Bab al Mandeb Strait, tension didn't just rise, it spread rapidly across the region. Nearby countries immediately began reacting, because this is not just a local route, it is one of the most critical global shipping choke points in the world today. For many nations, especially those dependent on energy imports and international trade, even the idea of disruption here creates serious concern. Governments, analysts, and market experts started closely monitoring the situation.
We all know him very well, and he was a very popular senator, very effective senator. Effective probably being the more important word. JD, don't you think?
Yes, sir.
And we wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
I think you do fantastically well. Congratulations to you. You have an amazing family that were here yesterday in the Oval, sworn in. His family's amazing, so thank you very much.
Knowing that a single escalation could trigger a chain reaction far beyond the Middle East. Behind the scenes, pressure started building. Regional partners began pushing for immediate clarity, asking what would happen next and how global powers would respond if this situation moved further. Strategic discussions intensified, and the focus quickly shifted from observation to preparation. At the same time, attention turned toward Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, another key route responsible for a significant portion of the world's oil supply. When both Bab al Mandeb and the Strait of Hormuz are being discussed together, it signals a level of risk that global markets cannot ignore. Energy markets reacted with caution. Even without any confirmed closure, uncertainty alone was enough to influence oil prices and investor behavior. This shows how sensitive the global economy is to developments in these regions. Shipping companies also began reviewing contingency plans. Rerouting ships around Africa, increasing security measures, and preparing for delays are all costly decisions. These costs don't stay within companies, they eventually reach consumers through higher prices and slower deliveries. In countries like the United Kingdom and across Europe, where supply chains rely heavily on maritime routes, any disruption can have immediate and visible effects. Fuel prices, food imports, and essential goods could all be impacted if tensions rise further. In the United States, political voices began responding to the situation. Former President Donald Trump once again highlighted the importance of avoiding a large-scale conflict, emphasizing that strategic negotiations and firm positioning are necessary to prevent escalation. According to multiple discussions and past policy approaches, Trump has often focused on a framework that includes several key ideas.
So, JD, please.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. It's good to see everybody. Proud to be part of this team. Proud to be serving the president of the country. Let me just say a couple things. The first of all is the president summarized this very ably. But look, the Iranian conventional military is effectively destroyed. They don't have a navy. They don't have the ability to hit us like they could have even a few weeks ago. And what that does is that gives us options, Mr. President. Now, there's been a lot of reporting about diplomatic options, about negotiations. There's, of course, Pete and his team. There are further military options. But what we have now that we didn't have when the president took over just a little over a year ago is the ability to use every tool at our disposal to ensure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. Because when I say options, I think it's important the American people know options for what? And it's options to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. You talk about people who walk into a crowded supermarket and have a vest on, and they blow up the vest and a couple of people get killed, and that's a terrible tragedy. What happens when what's on the vest is not something that can kill a couple of people, but can kill many, many tens of thousands of people? That is the most important American national security objective that exists for any administration at any time, is you don't want the worst people in the world to have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president is doing this.
These include reducing regional tensions through negotiation, limiting aggressive actions in critical waterways, and ensuring that global trade routes remain open and secure. Another important aspect of such proposals involves economic considerations. Pressure through sanctions, combined with the possibility of easing restrictions under certain conditions, has been part of previous strategies. The goal is often to create leverage while keeping the door open for dialogue. Security guarantees also play a role in these discussions. Preventing further escalation, avoiding direct confrontation, and maintaining balance in the region are all part of broader strategic thinking. On the other side, Iran has consistently maintained that any negotiation must respect its national interests and sovereignty. Statements from Iranian officials in the past have pointed towards several key expectations. These often include the removal or reduction of economic sanctions, recognition of regional influence, and assurances that external pressure will not continue indefinitely. Iran has also emphasized the importance of mutual respect in any diplomatic process. Another key point in such discussions is security within the region. Iran has often argued that stability should come from within the region rather than external intervention, highlighting the need for long-term solutions rather than temporary agreements. At the same time, communication channels remain open at different levels. While public statements may appear strong, behind-the-scenes diplomacy often continues quietly. This dual approach is common in complex geopolitical situations. Military analysts are also watching closely. Increased naval presence, surveillance operations, and defensive positioning have all been observed in response to rising tensions. While these actions are often precautionary, they can also increase the risk of miscalculation. Even a small incident in such a sensitive environment can escalate quickly. This is why global leaders repeatedly emphasize caution and restraint. Markets continue to react in real time. Oil prices fluctuate, investors shift strategies, and companies prepare for multiple scenarios. This constant state of alert reflects the uncertainty surrounding the situation. Shipping routes remain a major concern. The Bab al Mandeb Strait and the Strait of Hormuz are not just geographic locations, they are critical arteries of the global economy. Any instability here affects millions of people worldwide. For everyday individuals, the impact may not be immediate, but it becomes visible over time. Higher fuel costs, increased prices of goods, and delays in deliveries are all possible outcomes if tensions continue.
Mr. President, it is my distinct honor to be a member of your cabinet and to report to you and your team on our negotiations with Iran. Mr. President, you directed Jared and I to pursue a diplomatic resolution with Iran prior to Operation Epic Fury, which we did. However, it became quite clear during these meetings with the Iranian negotiating team that we could not make a deal that fulfilled your objectives of the following: no enrichment whatsoever, no chance of weaponizing whatsoever, decommissioning of Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan, which you destroyed in Operation Midnight Hammer, no stockpiling of any material, which they flagrantly violated, turning all enriched material over to us, and a cutback in Iran's missile inventory and range capability of those same missiles.
Back in the United States, discussions continue about how to balance strength with diplomacy. The focus remains on preventing escalation while maintaining strategic influence in the region. At the same time, international organizations are encouraging dialogue and cooperation. The hope is that all parties involved will prioritize stability over confrontation. Public interest in the situation is also growing. As more information becomes available, people around the world are trying to understand what this means for the future. Is this a temporary phase of tension, or could it lead to something more serious? That question remains unanswered. Experts suggest that the coming days and weeks will be critical. Diplomatic efforts, political decisions, and regional developments will all play a role in shaping the outcome. For now, the situation remains uncertain, but highly important. The world is watching closely, and every development matters. Because in a globally connected system, what happens in one region can affect everyone. And as this story continues to unfold, staying informed may be more important than ever before. Because the next update could change everything.